This is a real quick review of the Blade Nano QX and the Blade Nano QX FPV version, or first person view. Earlier this year I bought a Blade Nano. It's a great little toy, right? I got it ready to fly, so I got the controller with it. And I really liked it because it's got the safe mode, so it's easy to fly. You can fly it inside. I kind of like outside because I get a little more room to screw up. But it works really well. I'll point out a few things about this thing and both of them as we go on. Then just yesterday I got the Blade Nano FPV. I like this quite a bit. It does have some problems, and with some knowledge you can get around those problems. There's one thing I need to research on it, but and I bought it bind and fly because I already have the controller from the Blade Nano. Shortly after getting the Blade Nano line of sight version, I really started wanting to get into FPV. So what I did is I went out and followed some directions I found online. I went out and I got this 1.3 gigahertz transmitter that's here, and this cheap little camera, and this converts it to 5 volts from 3.5 from the battery. So I got it all welded on there, and everything is fine. There's the positive and negative ground, or positive and negative points right there. I got it all soldered on, and everything is working pretty well. But as I was trying to glue it onto the board, I zapped something on the board, got a little arc, and I think I've torched my transmitter. And as I was looking for a fix for that, I saw advertisements for a pre-release of this thing. This is the Blade Nano FPV, and they've been on back order for quite some time, but I just got back from Thanksgiving and here it is. Again, some problems on this. I'll point them out in just a sec. The first thing that's going to drive you nuts about these Nanos is they ship them with, the bind and fly came with one battery, which is a 1500 or 150 mAh battery, and the other one came with two batteries. I don't know where they are, and they come with this little charger, which is nice because out of the box you can get to flying. But as you can see, I went out and bought a whole bunch of batteries because one of the problems, at least with this guy, is you get maybe 3-4 minutes of flight, which is just enough to kind of get, if you're a beginner, just enough that I would get kind of set up and feeling good with the sticks, and then poop out with the batteries. With this battery charger, it takes a good 40 minutes to charge those batteries up. And what I later found is they're not charging them very far. That thing isn't charging them very far at all anyway. So I have a LiPo charger. I bought this on like eBay or something like that. I can put 6 in line and charge them. What I do is I put them all in there and then I charge them with the LiPo battery charger at 6 amps. That way it's a little shorter, and it'll get them up to 4.2 volts in about 30 minutes. So 6, it's definitely something you want to invest in, is a bunch more batteries and a battery charger that can charge more than one battery at a time. I might want to take a real close look at this thing. You can see that from the regular Nano, it's where the battery is placed. It's kind of right in the middle. In this case, the battery is a little towards the back end of the, farther back, probably to offset the weight of this 2 boards and the camera up front. There's the antenna, and it's just stuck on the end of a board there. Should this thing crash, I don't think it's going to cause any trouble because the thing just doesn't weigh anything, right? That little red wire up top is the antenna for the controller. This thing comes with extra blades. One thing I kind of like is I'm used to the yellow blades out front. Now I've got clear blades out front. Perhaps that's to reduce interference from the blades on the camera, but I don't think it's really targeted that way. But nevertheless, and then as far as the if you wanted to hit power, there's negative and positive right down there. You still can, although why you'd want to is question now, because why would you want to put this on there? Correction, why would you want to put this on there? So this is the smallest transmitter I could find. This is a 1.3 gigahertz. I will probably use this again. I don't know if I caused a spark at one point and then it didn't work so well. So I just went ahead and bought the other. This is a voltage increase, right, from 3.5 to 5 volts. This is the little connector. Here's the antenna and the camera. Someday I'll maybe use this on a fixed wing plane or something. Alright, so right out of the box I've plugged it in. The power's on there and it automatically goes to FPV mode. These are my goggles. Got some Fat Sharks, and then I've just run a cable over to this little DVD player so that you can see how clear the picture is. It looks as clear as you could expect it to be. It's pretty nice. One problem that you'll see in a minute is trying to figure out what channel you're on. Basically, if you cycle through on the Fat Sharks, you can figure out what channel you're starting on. It starts at 1. I'll show you another thing in just a sec. Alright, I've taken the canopy off and you can see that it's functioning. Right now it's blinking blue because it is not bound to a controller. But here, this is not in the manual. If you want to change the channel, there's a little button right here. That button, I've just changed the channel. I assume that it's cycling through each of Fat Shark's 6 channels. So that's one thing, and there's nothing discussed about that in the book. So here's one of the problems that we're going to face. We would like to fly a couple of these around in the same room, and we're going to have to change the channels. So I suppose now that you've seen this, you know how to change a channel. Anybody that's got half a brain could probably figure out how to push that with it, that there's a button there. One of the other problems I see is, see how the cables are kind of loose and dangling all around? And this propeller is already going to hit that, that cable. So you're going to just have to be careful and maybe tape these down. We'll figure something out, or maybe twist it a little bit so that the cable does not pop up and hit the propeller. Again, not a really big problem, but something to watch out for. Alright, so the FPV is on the left, or is on the right. The old Nano non-FPV, I guess line of sight, is on your left. As you can see, the blue LED is solid. That means I bound it to the controller I have. I only have one. If I grab the other one and plug it in, it's now this could be a real big problem. So notice how they're both solid blue. They're both actually bound to the same controller. So that said, because they're both bound to the same controller, maybe I can show something good, which would be the stick handling, or how heavy the FPV is. It's not much heavier than the other. If you hold them in your hand, you won't really notice a difference, just a couple of grams difference. But you'll notice a great deal of throttle problem with the heavier unit. I'll probably have to reset the camera a couple times. This is just throttling up. Okay, let's do it again. The FPV is on the right. Last time, the FPV is on the right. Ready? So you can see the Nano, obviously with just a little bit less weight, is going to be a lot more performance oriented. I suppose you could get stronger motors for the other, but the question I have is, what is the battery life going to be with it heavier and with it outputting a video to my goggles? So we will see. Okay, I just got off the phone with Blade. Actually it's Horizon Hobby. What they said is if you set up these two in bind mode and then move them aside, and then you had another one and set that up in bind mode once it's bound and move them aside, then set up with another, etc., they will all lock in and not be a problem. The problem is if they're all in bind mode at the same time, or if you've previously, and this is what I did, if you previously bound this to this and then you bind it to this, turn it on, they're both bound to the same thing. So anyway, so that's just me being dumb. Set us up for a good evaluation though. Blade, while I was on the phone, said that these batteries should go 5 to 8 minutes, and I'm gonna have to call no chance on that. I'm lucky if I can get 4 minutes out of these things, either one, and that's just holding still and hovering. So anyway, in conclusion, I find that the Nano LOS, if you will, is easier to fly because it is lighter and more responsive to the controls. Now that could be because I bought it with the control in there. I bought it as an RTF, and with this guy, maybe it's set up a little differently in the RTF, but just binding and flying, no problem. The FPV version, I mean, you can tell that they kind of knocked this together as quick as they could. They've got these wires, or it could be a little less interference with the prop. This is just a board, so that's prone to breaking. I mean, you step on it, you're going to kill either one, but you know, whatever. The fact that the manual doesn't have any information about how to set the channels so that you can change channels here. If you want it, like it'll start in one, this will start in one, no problem. But if anybody else is flying around and you want to change channels, no information in the manual tells me they're a little short-sighted about putting that together, putting the whole package together. The button works, however, and you can figure that out pretty easily. I've always had a problem with Fat Sharks only being available on 6 different channels. They're making some changes to that, I hear, but I don't have it. So in the future, they'll be able to go to all 32 5.8 channels, but right now it's only 6. That's a problem, but if I had 5 other friends flying these around, the biggest question I have right now is, what about the controller? As far as how it flies, battery level seems pretty much the same. I'm a beginning FPV flyer. This is my first experience with it. So, you know, it feels to me like 5 minutes is a pretty long time. Mostly because I'm crashing it and running around chasing it around, or when I'm just hovering it, you know, I'll need more experience to really understand that. But why we like these things is we want to work with school children, and we want them to fly these around in the gymnasium. And if you bump into somebody or whatever, you're not putting a lot of money at risk, and you're not putting the kids at risk. But the fact that we can only have a couple flying is hard enough. The fact that we may only be able to have one flying because the controllers overlap, that's a real big problem for us. We'll have to go find something else to do. All right, thanks very much. Talk to you later.